The night the Duke arrived, the wind carried rumors faster than the lanterns could be lit. It slipped through the narrow streets and into the Mercer household, whispering that fate had finally come knocking. Eliza Mercer stood by the window, hands folded tight, watching snowless clouds slide across the moon. Below, the iron gate creaked open. A carriage rolled in, black, polished, unmistakable. The Duke of Ashcombe had come to choose a bride. Inside the house, everything moved quickly and loudly except Eliza. Dresses were shaken out like flags of victory, ribbons were tied with frantic hope, and mirrors were claimed as if they were weapons. Eliza's younger sister, Clara, laughed as their father clapped his hands and barked instructions. "The blue dress," he said. "The one that shows your eyes." His voice brimmed with confidence, the way a gambler's does when he believes the dice are already in his favor. Eliza did not laugh. She had learned early how to be quiet without disappearing. Her mother had taught her that skill before illness took her away, pressing a cool hand to Eliza's cheek and saying, "Be gentle with the world, even when it is not gentle with you." Since then, Eliza had been gentle in small, unnoticed ways, mending tears no one saw, calming storms before they broke, listening when listening was hard. She had also learned how to accept being overlooked. Her father barely glanced at her. He never meant to be cruel, he was simply practical. Clara was pretty in the way paintings are pretty, bright smile, shining hair, a confidence that made rooms tilt toward her. Eliza was kind. People said it like an apology. "Stay out of the way," her father said without looking at her. "You'll only make things awkward." Eliza nodded. She always did. The Duke entered with a calm that quieted the room. He was not old, as Eliza had imagined, nor was he grand in a loud way. His presence was steady, like a river that knows where it is going. Duke Thomas Ashcombe had eyes that noticed corners, cracks in walls, frayed hems, the silence after laughter. He bowed politely and smiled, a small smile, careful and sincere. The formalities began. Clara stepped forward exactly when she was supposed to. She curtsied perfectly. Compliments followed like rehearsed lines. Eliza watched from the side, heart pounding not with jealousy, but with a strange, unwelcome hope she quickly pushed down. This was not her moment. It never was. Then came dinner. Eliza served quietly, moving from chair to chair with practiced ease. She poured wine, refilled plates, and apologized for things that were not her fault. When the Duke thanked her, she looked up, startled. People rarely thanked her for doing what they expected her to do without question. "Of course," she said softly. The Duke noticed the softness. He noticed how her voice didn't seek approval, how her eyes didn't measure their worth against anyone else's. He noticed, too, how she flinched when her father spoke sharply, and how she steadied Clara when Clara grew nervous, whispering encouragement that no one else could hear. After the meal, the family gathered in the parlor. The fire cracked and popped, sending sparks into the chimney like wishes. Clara laughed at the Duke's stories. Their father leaned forward, eager, proud. Eliza stood near the window again, hands folded, watching the reflection of the room ripple in the glass. At last, the Duke rose. "There is something I should say," he began. His voice was calm, but the room stilled. "I came here with a purpose, and I respect honesty. So I will be honest in return." Eliza's father smiled tightly. "Of course, Your Grace." The Duke turned, not toward Clara, but toward Eliza. "I would like to speak with your elder daughter," he said. The silence that followed was heavy enough to bend the air. Clara blinked. Their father stiffened. Eliza felt the floor shift beneath her feet, as if the house itself were unsure how to hold this moment. Eliza stepped forward slowly. Her heart hammered so loudly she was certain everyone could hear it. "Yes?" she asked. The Duke studied her face, not searching for beauty, but for truth. "Will you walk with me?" he asked gently. Outside, the cold sharpened the stars. They walked the edge of the garden, breath clouding, shoes crunching softly on frozen gravel. Eliza clasped her hands to keep them from trembling. "I didn't mean to cause discomfort," the Duke said. "But I believe conversations matter more than impressions." Eliza swallowed. "I'm not very impressive." He smiled, not unkindly. "That depends on what one is looking for." They spoke of small things at first: weather, travel, books. Eliza relaxed despite herself. She spoke of her mother, of the quiet joy of tending roses, of learning to listen when words failed. The Duke listened as if each sentence mattered. At last, he stopped walking. Your father suggested I choose your sister, he said. Eliza looked down. She is lovely. She is, he agreed. But loveliness fades if it is not rooted in kindness. Eliza looked up, startled. I have lived among people who were chosen for their beauty, their wealth, their names, he continued. I have also lived among those who were overlooked. The second group taught me how to live. Eliza's breath caught. I don't understand. I choose you, he said simply. The world seemed to pause, as if waiting to see whether Eliza would break or bloom. She did neither. She stood very still. I am not the pretty one, she said quietly. He nodded. I know. Inside, the storm broke. Her father's face hardened. You insult my family, he snapped. Take the pretty one, he said sharply, gesturing to Clara. That is how these things are done. The Duke did not raise his voice. With respect, he said, I will not. Clara's eyes filled with tears, not from rejection, but from confusion. She looked at Eliza, searching her face. Eliza reached for her hand without thinking, squeezing it gently. I don't want to hurt anyone, Eliza said, voice trembling. You won't, the Duke replied. But you may heal more than you realize. The argument that followed was sharp and bitter. Accusations flew. Pride reared its head. At last, Eliza spoke again, softly but firmly. If my presence brings discord, she said, then I will step aside. The Duke turned to her. Do you want to? She thought of her mother's words. Be gentle with the world. She thought of the quiet ache she had learned to carry. She thought of the man before her, who saw her without asking her to shine. No, she said. The decision was made. The weeks that followed were not easy. Whispers followed Eliza like shadows. Some called her selfish. Others called her lucky. Few understood the courage it took to accept being chosen for who she was rather than who she was not. At Ashcombe, Eliza found rooms filled with echoes of old expectations. She did not try to be a duchess in the way stories described. She learned the names of the servants' children. She listened to the farmers' worries. She wrote letters by hand and answered them all. When she made mistakes, she apologized. The Duke watched, quietly amazed. One winter, a harsh one, the village beyond the estate faced famine. Eliza rose before dawn, organizing kitchens, opening storehouses, working until her hands cracked. When officials warned her of cost, she smiled and said, we will find a way. They did. The night the village gathered to thank her, Eliza stood on the steps, overwhelmed. She looked out at faces warmed by firelight and hope. The Duke stood beside her, pride in his eyes. I chose the rejected sister, he whispered. She squeezed his hand. You chose kindness, she replied. Years later, when people told the story, they remembered the moment everything changed. Not the argument, not the scandal, but the choice. A choice to see worth where others saw none. A choice to believe that gentleness could be strength. And in that belief, a quiet girl found her voice, a duke found his partner, and a community learned that the heart's truest beauty is the one that lifts others into the light.